The psychological and social impact of interactive gaming platforms on American youth. A structural analysis of digital environments. Interactive gaming platforms such as Roblox have evolved far beyond traditional entertainment media. Contemporary digital platforms built around user-generated content, UGC, persistent social interaction, and virtual economies increasingly function as parallel developmental environments in which millions of children and adolescents construct identity, social status, emotional regulation patterns, and behavioral habits. Within the United States, where digital immersion is deeply integrated into everyday life, these platforms now occupy a central position in youth culture. Research from institutions such as the Pew Research Center consistently shows that the overwhelming majority of American teenagers engage with video games on a regular basis. Consequently, gaming can no longer be understood solely as a recreational activity. It must also be examined as a psychological and socio-technological system capable of influencing cognition, motivation, and interpersonal behavior. 1. Reward architecture and behavioral conditioning. Modern gaming platforms are intentionally designed around highly engaging feedback systems rooted in behavioral psychology. Many employ variable reinforcement structures in which rewards are distributed unpredictably through mechanisms such as cosmetic unlocks, progression systems, virtual currencies, and randomized rewards. From a neuropsychological perspective, these systems activate dopaminergic reward pathways associated with anticipation, motivation, and reinforcement learning. Importantly, dopamine does not merely produce pleasure. It also strengthens attentional focus and behavioral repetition. As a result, highly stimulating gaming environments can encourage compulsive engagement patterns, particularly among adolescents whose executive self-regulation systems are still developing. This does not imply that gaming addiction affects all players equally. However, excessive immersion may contribute to behavioral dysregulation in vulnerable individuals, including irritability during interruption, emotional overactivation, disrupted sleep patterns, reduced frustration tolerance, and heightened dependency on digital stimulation for mood regulation. In this context, some researchers argue that certain gaming ecosystems operate similarly to attention-maximizing behavioral economies, in which user engagement itself becomes the primary commodity. 2. Identity formation and psychological agency in virtual spaces. Digital platforms also provide psychologically meaningful environments for identity experimentation and self-construction. This is particularly significant within American culture, where autonomy, self-expression, and individual achievement are strongly emphasized. Self-determination theory offers a useful framework for understanding this phenomenon. According to the theory, human beings seek 3 core psychological needs: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Interactive games frequently satisfy all 3 simultaneously. Players can create personalized avatars, shape virtual environments, develop specialized skills, and participate in social communities that provide recognition and belonging. Similarly, the Proteus effect suggests that avatar characteristics can influence user behavior and self-perception within digital environments. Virtual identity therefore becomes psychologically consequential rather than merely decorative. For some individuals, online spaces may strengthen confidence, creativity, and social competence. For others, exposure to exclusion, cyberbullying, or status-based comparison may negatively affect self-esteem and emotional well-being. The growing importance of digital identity reflects a broader cultural transition in which online environments increasingly participate in the construction of the modern self. 3. Gaming as emotional regulation and escapist coping. Beyond competition and entertainment, many contemporary games function as emotional coping environments. Children and adolescents often use digital immersion to manage stress, loneliness, uncertainty, or social anxiety. Social psychological research suggests that some players symbolically reenact real-world fears and conflicts through role play and virtual simulation. In psychologically stressful societies, digital worlds can become spaces where individuals temporarily regain a sense of control, predictability, and agency absent from offline life. At the same time, gaming may also develop into a form of avoidant coping, when individuals rely excessively on virtual engagement to escape unresolved personal or family difficulties. In such cases, games cease to function primarily as recreational tools and instead become mechanisms of emotional withdrawal. The psychological outcome, therefore, depends less on gaming itself and more on intensity of use, developmental vulnerability, social environment, emotional resilience, and the motivations underlying play. 4. Risks within open digital ecosystems. Open interactive platforms also expose users to broader social and psychological risks associated with unregulated digital communication. These risks include cyberbullying, predatory social behavior, identity manipulation, social comparison pressures, and aggressive monetization systems. Particularly concerning are environments in which children encounter persistent social pressure tied to virtual status symbols and cosmetic consumption. Such systems may encourage early forms of financial impulsivity, class-based comparison, and externalized self-worth tied to digital appearance and visibility. At the same time, the psychological consequences of online harm are often intensified by the immersive and socially persistent nature of digital environments. Unlike traditional media, interactive platforms operate continuously and accompany users into private spaces of everyday life. 5. Conclusion. Towards psychological literacy in the digital age. The psychological impact of modern gaming platforms is neither entirely harmful nor entirely beneficial. Interactive digital environments can foster creativity, collaborative problem-solving, digital literacy, social connection, and imaginative exploration. However, these same systems may also encourage compulsive behavioral patterns, emotional dependency, and distorted forms of social comparison when engagement occurs without healthy developmental boundaries. The central challenge of the digital age is therefore not whether gaming should exist, but how individuals, families, educators, and institutions can cultivate psychological self-regulation within increasingly immersive technological environments. As digital platforms continue to evolve into primary spaces of socialization and identity formation, understanding their psychological influence becomes essential not only for protecting youth mental health, but also for understanding how modern human behavior itself is being reshaped within algorithmically mediated societies.